You see now to go live. And we're live. Hi, good afternoon to the entire world. Good morning, good evening, depending on where it is you are clicking in from. We're honored, we are privileged to have you here with us today, this beautiful Sunday, the 1st of November 2020. It's indeed a great day in Nigeria. Why do I say it's a great day in Nigeria? Every day that we have life, there is hope. And where there is hope, there is opportunity to make progress. Today, we are making progress in an aspect of the Nigerian lives, or should I say, in the aspect of the Nigerian well being. That's what I mean. How? There's been a lot of agitation over the past few days. Anybody in the world knows that Nigeria has been on the NSAS journey, which has led to Reform Nigeria, New Nigeria, We Move, Beyond NSARS, It Starts With Me. All of these toward the betterment of our country, Nigeria. And guess who is taking responsibility now? All of us. All of us. So there is one document that guides us as a people. It guides the way we behave. It guides the rights of the citizen. It guides how the law is executed in this country. It guides everything. And that document is called the Nigerian Constitution. Since I was young, I've heard all sorts of things about, the Nigerian Constitution is this, is that. It's funny, it doesn't help us. In fact, in the past year, I've heard it more. In the past 2 weeks, we've heard it even much more. But unfortunately, many of us have no clue exactly what the Nigerian Constitution is, what it says, what it provides for. I dare say, and this is my opinion, that a vast majority of maybe 90 or over 90% of Nigerian citizens have no idea what the Nigerian Constitution says explicitly. We know how it has been expressed. We know how people have said and have quoted the Nigerian Constitution, but many of us do not have first-hand knowledge of what it says. So I decided to take it on in my own space, my own stride, to begin to teach about the Nigerian Constitution. But I have no idea what it says. So I invited I went to an organization, Primera Africa Legal, one of the topmost law firms across Africa, and I asked them to please partner with me, and they were so gracious. In less than 2 seconds, the answer was yes. So by all means, we will join you in this partnership. So guess what? Out of the sea of lawyers that they have, three special ones are with me on this journey today. They were with me last week, and I'm not sure if it's them that will be here next week, but we're getting used to their faces. We're happy with the contributions they're making. What are we doing? We're picking the Nigerian Constitution chapter by chapter. There are 8 chapters, by the way. Chapter by chapter, we're studying it, we're dissecting it so that we can understand it. On Instagram today, somebody left a comment on my page saying, please, I have a question. What was the question now? He said, or he or she said, does the Constitution allow for protesters to block roads and stop other people from going about their daily business? And my response was, the answer to that is written in the Constitution somewhere. So we're not going to do these quick fixes, just answering one question offhanded here or there. No, we are going to study the entire thing together. So I'm saying to you who is watching, please don't watch it alone. Share with your family, your friends, and with your children. If you have a child that can read or write, meaning from the age 4 and above, that child is old enough to be a part of this discussion, to know exactly what the Nigerian Constitution is. So that when we are agitating and advocating for the rewriting or the total overhaul of the Nigerian Constitution, we also know what exactly it is we are doing. So if you're joining us live on YouTube, I'd like to say welcome to you. We're also broadcasting or streaming live to Facebook. And I'll say to everyone, welcome. We're also on Instagram. Yeah. So welcome to everyone who is clicking in. Get your coffee, your tea, or your water like me. You can even get a fruit if need be. You might even bring your lunch because we're going to be here for about 2 hours. But I promise you 2 hours will go by so fast. You won't believe how fast it's going to go. So last week we talked about the preamble to the Nigerian Constitution, and we discussed chapter 1, which is the general provisions. Chapter 1 more or less gives us an overview of what to expect in all 8 chapters. Today, we're dealing with chapters 2, 3, and 4. Chapter 2 is fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Chapter 3 is citizenship, and chapter 4 is fundamental rights. We are discussing all these 3. Some of the chapters are not heavy. They don't have a lot of words. So we've been able to put them together. So let me introduce to you my team, who I'm so excited and proud of. They are lawyers from Primera Africa Legal. Right next to me, you see Sarah Uku. So everybody just wave to Sarah. You can put in the comments, say, welcome, Sarah. Hi. Nonso Nkamuke, his face is directly under mine. Oh, and the network has just taken him off. Nonso is going to be right back. And Maria Yunusa is also here with us. Maria, just wave. Nonso is trying to log on back. Hey, yes, welcome, my brother. They are with us on this journey. And how it's going to run is Maria will be speaking to us on chapter 2. Nonso will be speaking to us on chapter 3, dissecting, and Sarah will come up with chapter 4. When I have a question in between, I'll try not to interject too much. At any point, should I have a question, I'll bring everybody up and we will dissect the question together, profess solutions. I would please keep questions till toward the end to all our viewers on YouTube and on Facebook and also Instagram. Unfortunately, I cannot see the questions from Instagram right here. So please keep your questions till the last 30 minutes so that we don't lose the questions, and then we will address the questions here. If the question is going to be answered from chapters 5, 6, 7, or 8, which we'll be discussing on other Sundays, we will not answer the question here today. We will tell you, come back next week and you would have the question to that answered. So on that note, I say welcome once again. I would hand over to Maria whilst the rest of us go backstage. Maria is going to discuss chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution. Please, everyone in the chat box, say welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Joyce, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again on our journey in trying to look at the Nigerian Constitution. So, as earlier mentioned, I will be discussing chapter 2 of the Constitution, which is the fundamental objectives and the directive principles of state policy. And this chapter conferred on us as citizens certain economic, social, and cultural rights, and it also imposed on the state some sort of obligations and duty to provide us those benefits, if I can call them that. Now, let us look at the chapter in terms of each of the sections. The first section we have in the chapter is section 14 of the Constitution, as contained in chapter 2. And that section provides that the nation or the Nigerian state shall be governed based on the principle of democracy and social justice. You can see that the Constitution anticipates how the Nigerian state or has already clearly provided how the Nigerian state should be governed. Now, that section provides that sovereignty belongs to the people, that's the Nigerian citizen, and from which the government derives its authority and powers through the constitution. Let us try and analyze this. What is this word? What is sovereignty as a term? If we say sovereignty, it is the power, the rights, or the authority of an independent sovereign nation to govern itself without any interference or without any form of interference by an external or by any external force. Now, the power, the authority, and the right of the Nigerian independent state to govern itself without any form of interference by any external force is rested or belongs to the Nigerian people, belongs to us as citizens. It does not belong to anybody. It does not belong to the president. It does not belong to, it belongs to the Nigerian people, us the citizens. Somebody somewhere will be saying we are powerful. Yeah, indeed, we are as a people. Now, the question you need to ask yourself now is this. Who are these Nigerian people? It means us, the citizen, me and you and every other Nigerian. Now, the section further in subsection 2, paragraph A, provide that paragraph B, provide that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. I want us to note this with emphasis. The welfare and security of the Nigerian people, of the citizen, shall be the primary purpose of government and nothing else. Now, we should ask ourselves, we have people we elect into position of authority, right? From our councillors to our local government chairmen to our governors to the president and in fact to the legislators. The question we need to ask ourselves as a people and as citizens is, each and every of these people that we are electing, what are they going into those public office to do? Are they going there to go and ensure that our welfare and our security is protected? If yes, fine. If there is any other purpose for which people are aspiring to occupy public office other than to protect the welfare and the security of the Nigerian citizen, then that aspiration is of no moment, is of no use, and it doesn't have any importance to us as a people, right? Now, let me just go down to subsection 3 of the same section. It provides that the affairs of the Nigerian nation should be carried out in such a way that it reflects the federal character of the Nigerian state, and to ensure that few individuals, or to ensure that there is no predominance of few people from a particular section or from a particular state in the affairs of government and governance. And this is very important and really something that we should really interrogate on our daily life as a people. Because you cannot have a united nation. You cannot command loyalty in a nation. You cannot have people aspiring or people willing to identify themselves as Nigerians unless and until there is an equal opportunity for each and every citizen. Do you get me? We need a nation where people, if you meet Muawiyah or if you meet any Nigerian on the street and you ask him, who are you? The first thing that citizen should tell you is that I'm a Nigerian. It's not for the citizen to begin to think that he is first a Southerner, he is first a Northerner, or he is first Yoruba, or he is first. He should first of all aspire to identify himself or be proud to identify himself as a Nigerian. And the only way you can command loyalty, the only way you can be able to achieve unity in a diverse society like ours, is to ensure that there is equal opportunity, as to ensure that every other person or every other section of people has this sense of belonging and are carried along in the affairs of governance. So that's the whole essence of subsection 3. And this goes down even to the level of the state government. It does not necessarily just end with the federal, the affairs of the nation at the federal level, right? It provides and it encourages the state to promote a sense of belonging and loyalty among all its people. Very important. Now, let me just run down to section 15 so that we try to look at the various sections. Section 15 provides for the political objectives of the Nigerian state. And that section encourages a national integration, and it prohibits any form of discrimination on every or for every Nigerian citizen on the grounds of his place of origin, on the grounds of his gender, on the grounds of his religion, status, ethnic, or any linguistic association or affiliation, right? So no Nigerian, no citizen of this nation shall be discriminated on any ground. Every other Nigerian should be accorded equal opportunity and right like every other one, right? Now, the same section encouraged the Nigerian state to promote national integration, and to achieve this, the Nigerian state is encouraged to ensure every citizen is secured full resident right in every part of the nation. So as a Nigerian, you are from, or you find yourself to have been given back to in Akwa Ibom, and tomorrow, or you just find yourself in Sokoto or in any local government in Sokoto, you should have the right to reside and earn livelihood in Sokoto, and you should have the right to own and have every other thing that somebody that is from that state should have. So the right of residence and the right to secure livelihood in that state is guaranteed by the Constitution. And then the Constitution encouraged intermarriage among the Nigerian people, among the people from different sections of the country. You are a northerner, you find yourself in the south, you should be able to marry from any part of the south. You are Fulani by tribe, or you are Yoruba by tribe, you should be able to marry the Igbos freely, and the Constitution encouraged that for us to be able to achieve national unity and to be able to command loyalty among Nigerians, right? Now, the Constitution also provides or encourage and promote formation of association that should cut across all ethnic, religious, and sectional lines. So Nigerians should be able to form association that every Nigerian shall belong, or every Nigerian should have the right to belong, in such a way that it can encourage and command national cohesion, right? And then the nation or the Nigerian state shall foster a feeling of belonging and involvement among the various people of the federation. So the whole essence of the political objective is to ensure or encourage a national unity and command loyalty among the citizens, basically, right? So let me go down to the economic objectives as provided by section 16 of the Constitution. I hope I'm not a bit fast. I'm trying to just see if we can run through. There will be questions. Subsequently, we will be able to discuss and maybe elaborate if there are areas that are not clear where we answered the question. So the whole essence of the economic objective of the Nigerian state is to ensure that, right? Okay. Any question?
Yes, there's a question in the comments. People are not sure what section is and what subsection is.
Right.
So I know we defined it last time, but we need to redefine it so people know when we say section, we know what it is, and when we say subsection. So please take that again, or take that and we'll continue. Thank you.
Okay, so let's look at section 15 of the Constitution. If anyone is looking at a copy of the Constitution, you will see 15 that is bolded and is looking darker than any other number in the Constitution. That's what is called section 15 of the Constitution. So anywhere you see a figure that is bolded and is looking darker than any other number, it is the section itself. Now, right by the side of 15, you will see 1 in brackets. where it provides the motto of the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be unity, faith, peace, and progress. So that one in bracket, at any time, if you hear me say subsection 1, right? Or you hear me say subsection 2, if you look around that provision, anywhere you see 1 in bracket or 2 in bracket, that is the subsection 1 or the subsection 2 of the Constitution. So you hear me say section 15 subsection 1, I'm referring to that 1 in bracket, or section 15 subsection 2, I'm referring to that 2 in bracket, right? Now, if you go down again, right under subsection 3, you will see A in bracket again. Now, that A is what is referred to as paragraph A. So at any time, if you hear me say section 15, subsection 3, paragraph A, I'm referring to that A in bracket. That A is paragraph A, right? And we have paragraph C in bracket right under it, and it runs down up to the end of the Constitution. And there may be, I'm not sure if there is even any, that there may be sometimes you will have Roman numerals, Roman figures, right? That is referred to as subparagraph A. We have subsection 1, right? And we have paragraph A, right? Or paragraph B, right? If you hear me say subparagraph 1 or subparagraph 2 is the Roman figures that you may come across. I am not sure if you have them if you can come across them in this conversation, maybe subsequently in the later part of the discussion. So I hope that is clear. So let me continue with the economic objectives of the Nigerian state. I just want to go to the whole essence of the economic objective. The whole essence of the economic objective of the Nigerian state is to ensure that material resources of the nation are harnessed and distributed as best as possible to serve the common good of the Nigerian people, right? So Nigeria resources, natural or any form of resources that the Nigerian state endow with, should be harnessed in such a way that it should be distributed to meet the common good of the Nigerian people and nothing more. It is not for the purpose of anything but for the purpose of harnessing it and distributing it to ensure that it is distributed to achieve the common good of the Nigerian people. And again, the economic system that should be operated in the country should be in such a way or manner to ensure that resources are not concentrated in the hands of few individuals, right? So it is encouraged, that it is expected that every Nigerian should be able to have access, or should be the resources of the Nigerian state should be distributed in such a way that every citizen of the nation should be able to access or should be able to benefit from the resources, right? Now, if you look at paragraph D of subsection 2, it is a very interesting provision that encourages the Nigerian state to ensure that a suitable, adequate shelter, suitable and adequate food, reasonable national minimum living wage, all health care and pension, employment or unemployment, sick benefit, and welfare of the disabled are provided for all citizens. This is really very laudable. So the welfare of the Nigerian state, able and disabled, or let me not use the word disabled, maybe let's say people with special needs, should all be catered for and provided for. The Constitution anticipated that every Nigerian, wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever capacity you are living in, should be able to be provided for by the Nigerian state, right? So that's the whole essence of the economic objective, to ensure that Nigerian resources, or the resources of the nation, is harnessed and distributed in such a way that it meets the common good of the Nigerian people, right? And to ensure that resources are distributed to ensure every citizen is able to access and benefit from those resources, right? And prevent a situation whereby few individuals or the resources is concentrated on or in the hand of few individuals, right? And to make adequate provision for those social welfares, suitable and comfortable accommodation, living wages, and all sort of those things that are listed in paragraph D of the Constitution, right? Now, let's look at section 17 that provides for social objectives of the Nigerian state. Right? Now, the essence or the whole essence of the social objectives of the Nigerian state is to ensure that every citizen shall have equal rights, obligation, and opportunity before the Nigerian law. Before the Nigerian law, each and every one of us should be given equal rights, equal opportunities, and shall have the right to assess every other benefit or every other rights the Nigerian citizen should be assessed before the law. As far as the law is concerned, we should all be given, or we should all have equality of rights, obligation, and opportunities before the law. Again, if you go down again to paragraph E, I'm just giving some of the things. I just want to concentrate on things that are really germane and important. It provides for independent, impartiality, integrity, and integrity of the Nigerian courts, and it provides for easy accessibility to the Nigerian court system for every citizen. You have every right that you think is not given to you as a citizen, or you feel aggrieved in respect of something that is done to you, or your rights is denied by someone. You should have easy access to the Nigerian courts to be able to ventilate your grievance and to be able to get remedy for that violation of your right or denial that you are facing, right? Now, if you look at subsection 3, paragraph A, it provides for every Nigerian to have opportunity for securing adequate means of livelihood as well as adequate opportunities to secure suitable employment. Very important. Just like 2 or 3 months ago, a debate was going on in the National Assembly on the placement of minimum or maximum age requirement for certain classes or so certain employment opportunities that come across Nigeria. If you see, maybe for example, I don't want to mention institution, a Nigerian institution is advertising for employment, they will tell you and not above or should be below the age of 25 or should be below or not above the age of 30. So the Nigerian legislators were making some sort of argument that every Nigerian should not be discriminated when it comes to employment by reason of his age or by reason of any other form of disability that he may suffer. Now, specifically, subsection 3, paragraph A has already adequately captured that. It says every Nigerian shall have opportunity to secure adequate means of livelihood as well as adequate opportunity to secure suitable employment. So no one should be discriminated and everybody should be given equal opportunity in that aspect, right? Now, let me just look at again paragraph D and E and paragraph F of that section, and I will just go to education objective. It provides that there should be adequate medical and health facility for all persons. All of us should be entitled to adequate health and medical facility, right? And then if you look at paragraph E, it provides there should be equal pay for equal work without discrimination on the account of sex or any other ground whatsoever. So you find yourself a Nigerian, wherever you are working, wherever you find yourself being employed, you should be able to assess or you should be paid wages that is equal to every other Nigerian that is working in any part of the Nigerian institutions, right? Then F provides that children, young person, and the age shall be protected against any exploitation whatsoever and against moral and material neglect. So the Constitution understands that the aged and the young are the most vulnerable members of our society, and there is need for them to be protected, and it made adequate provision for them to be protected under the Constitution. Now, let's look at section 18 that provides for the education objectives. The Constitution anticipates that for you to have a reasonable and responsible citizen, that citizen needs to be educated like what we are doing now to understand what are his rights, what are his duties, and what are his obligations. And the only way the Nigerian citizen can understand that is when you educate them. Now, section 18 provides that the government shall promote science and technology, and shall eradicate illiteracy, and to this end the government shall, when practicable, provide free, compulsory, and universal primary education, free universal education, and free adult illiteracy. Very important. There is no one of us that is not contemplated under this provision. It provides for free, compulsory, universal primary education, free university education, and free adult illiteracy program. So your age doesn't matter. As a Nigerian, you are entitled to be educated for you to know your rights, your duties, and your obligation for you to be able to live responsibly as a citizen. Right. Now, let's look at the foreign policy. The foreign policy, I will just mention the fact that Nigerian foreign policy shall be to such extent that to promote and protect the national interest and nothing more. So every foreign policy of the Nigerian state, whatever foreign policy the Nigerian state want to engage in, the first and most important objective is to ensure that it is to promote and protect national interest. And that's it. So you can argue that there is need for us to have a unity as a continent in Africa, but the first and most important consideration should be promotion and protection of national interest. And that's it. So the next is the environmental objective, and it provides that the state shall protect, improve the environment, and safeguard the water, air, land, forest, and wildlife of the Nigerian state. That's very clear. We don't need to make much analysis on it. Now, if you look at the directive on the Nigerian culture, it provides that the Nigerian state shall protect, preserve, and promote the Nigerian culture. So our culture shall be protected and preserved. Right? Now, one thing I also want to emphasize on under this chapter is the provision on the obligation of the mass media, right? We all know that the mass media has the obligation to ensure that government is accountable to the people. Government as the Nigerian government should be accountable to the Nigerian people, and there is nothing more than that. So the mass media has a responsibility of monitoring and ensuring that the Nigerian government remain accountable to the Nigerian people as citizens. That's a very clear duty, or that is a very clear obligation that is provided for the mass media. Now, besides those rights and those obligations that, or those rights and benefits that are provided for us by the Constitution, the Constitution also places certain duties on us as citizens. It place a duty on us to abide by the provision of the Constitution, protect or respect its ideal and institution, that we should respect the Nigerian flag, the Nigerian national anthem, the Nigerian national pledge, and the legitimate authorities. So constituted authorities, we have a duty to respect, and we have a duty to ensure that we follow law and order as citizens. It also places duty on us to help to enhance power, prestige, good name of Nigeria, and defend the Nigeria and render such national service as may be required as citizens. So besides us being conferred rights, we also have duties to the Nigerian state. And these are some of the duties I'm highlighting. We have the duty to respect the dignity of other citizens and the right and legitimate interests of others, and live in unity and harmony in the spirit of common brotherhood. While in the course of the introduction, Joyce alluded to the fact that somebody asked question or right of citizen to protest and block roads, right? This section says we will discuss in detail the guaranteed or the rights that are given to citizens with respect to peaceful procession, but I'm just trying to emphasize the provision of section 224 sub C that says we should be able to live in harmony and be able to ensure that the right and the legitimate right of others are protected, and we do not do things that will interfere with the rights of others. Right. So I want to maybe leave those obligations at this stage and maybe look at arguments we have among lawyers, or argument we have on what is the enforceability of those rights that I just mentioned? Yes, you have the right, or the Nigerian state is placed with the duty to provide us as citizens, or is asked or is conferred with the obligation to provide us as citizens things like basic healthcare, right? Education, and all of those things that I mentioned. Now, what happened if the Nigerian state, be it your local government, be it your state government or the federal government, fail to provide those rights to us or to you as a citizen? Are there a remedy? Now, clearly, by the provision of section 6, sub 6, paragraph C of the Constitution, the rights I highlighted under chapter 2 are not enforceable before a court of law in Nigeria. Hear me right. They are not enforceable. You cannot go to court and claim that your state governor did not provide for you basic health facility and medical care, that the state government did not provide for you the opportunity or did not provide for you the facility to be educated to the extent that you deserve or you have the right under the Constitution. Because this chapter, as lawyers would always call it, it is a non-justiciable chapter. However, the Constitution anticipates that there are aspects or there are instances when those rights can be enforceable. Hear me. Because section 6 of 6C that make the section non-justiciable said, except as provided in this Constitution. So interpreters, we always call you and we always tell you that courts are the interpreters of the law, right? The court will always tell you that if there is anywhere in the Constitution where those rights that I listed in chapter 2 is provided for you as a citizen, other than the provision of chapter 2, where that right is not provided or where that right is violated, you can claim it or you can go to court and enforce the violation of that right. Don't ask me, up to now we have not had that yet. The second time, or the second aspect of it where it can be enforceable, by item 60 of the exclusive legislative list. You remember last week we discussed the exclusive legislative list and the concurrent list, and I mentioned that we have about 65 items under the exclusive legislative list. The National Assembly is empowered to make law with respect to regulating, right? Let me maybe just read the way it is on the provision so that we can just follow. Right, so we have item 60 of the exclusive legislative list. It says the establishment, right? The establishment and regulation of authorities for the federation or any part thereof to promote and enforce the observance of the fundamental objectives and directive principles contained in this Constitution. So the National Assembly is empowered to make law for the purpose of promoting the enforcement and observance of fundamental objective and directive principles. So if the National Assembly make a law that make it enforceable, that make any of those things that are listed in chapter 4 enforceable by virtue of that law by the National Assembly, then a citizen will have a right to go to court and claim that right if it is not provided for him. So these are the three again, let me tell you that by the provision of the African Charter of People and Human Rights, right, as provided, was domesticated, as domesticated by the Nigerian state, those rights I listed under chapter 2 of the Constitution were also contained in the African Charter of People and Human Rights generally. And by Article 45 of the Charter, all the rights that were enumerated therein are justifiable. And therefore, because those rights under the African Charter were domesticated and ratified by the Nigerian National Assembly, they are laws in Nigeria. And therefore, a Nigerian can now enforce those rights under the African Charter. However, the question is, which court will you go to enforce that right? We have a case in Nigeria where the Socioeconomic Right and Accountability Project, that's SERAP, filed an action against the Nigerian president and the Universal Basic Education Commission before the ECOWAS Court of Justice, or West African State Court of Justice. And that court held that the right guaranteed by the African Charter on Human and People Rights are justifiable, and therefore the court further held that every Nigerian have a right to education, which can be enforced before a court as guaranteed by the African Charter on Human and People Rights. Now, the question is, this is a decision by the court, yeah, right, by the West African State Court. What is the binding effect of that decision on the Nigerian state? Remember, we say Nigeria is a sovereign state, right, that is governed or that have the right to govern itself without any interference by any external force or influence by any external force. So what is the effect of the decision of the West African Court of Justice? That's an argument that is going on up to now. What is the binding effect of that decision? That decision is made by a court irrespective of a law that is domesticated and ratified in Nigeria. But up to this moment, nobody can tell you that that decision is binding on the Nigerian state, is enforceable against the Nigerian state. So that's an argument that is still going on and on and on, right? So the solution to this is still, the solution to this rests in us as citizens. You remember we have the right to vote and be voted for. So now the performance or the observance of the fundamental objective and directive principle by every elected official in Nigeria should be a yardstick for us to judge and assess the performance of people in government and people we elected. So if you elect a governor in your state, you elect a chairman in your local government, you elect your president as a citizen. The basis of you measuring his performance or the yardstick you use in measuring his performance should be the observance of those rights that are conferred on you under Chapter 4 as a citizen. So if your state governor, your local government chairman has performed and provided you those things, that has provided you a basic health care and health facility, has provided you education to the minimum standard expected, has provided you those socio-economic and social rights, then you as a citizen or you as Nigerian will now be able to tell you yourself or to say, okay, this person has done well and has performed, and I want to give him an opportunity to continue. Or I want to even try another person because he did not do well. So our ability to judge and assess those politically elected officials based on the observance and their performance of Chapter 4, Chapter 2 of the Constitution will determine the level of enforceability and the level at which you are giving or you and me are giving those rights under Chapter 2 of the Constitution. So I want to leave it here so that if you have any questions or any further conversation with respect to that, we can take them. Joyce, I hope I have not said too much.
I'm looking at the Constitution here. It can't be too much because these are the things that I ought to know. Yes, they were not taught in school. I wonder why. Was that intentional so that I don't know? I'm not going to ask that question out. It's just in my head. But I'm looking through, I'm listening, I'm trying to cope. And I'm also looking at the questions in the comment section. And I'm like, wow. So please, before we let you go on this, let's deal with a few questions here that I have seen. Akan, I believe it was it Akan who asked a question about, don't worry, I'm seeing the questions here. I would highlight them.
All right.
Yes, it was Akan who said, if section 15 subsection 2 talks about no discrimination, does that mean that homosexuality is permitted in Nigeria? Or let's rephrase, does that mean that homosexuals should have their rights, equal rights? I'll leave that to you to respond while I look for the next question. Please go ahead.
All right. Okay. If you look at the provision of the Constitution that confer on you that right, right? The opening paragraph of that section provide except as provided in this Constitution. And the Constitution went ahead to confer on the National Assembly the power to make laws, right? With respect to items or with respect to things that are contemplated under Chapter 2, and with respect to item under exclusive and concurrent legislative list. So just in 2014 or 2015, if I can remember, I think it's 2014, the Nigerian National Assembly passed a law prohibiting homosexuality, lesbianity, and all those things that were listed. And by that law, to engage in those things is not only a wrong, but rather a criminal offense that provide for punishment.
Criminal offense now.
Exactly. So the fact that the Constitution provides that you shouldn't be discriminated on the ground of gender, it only provides on the ground of sex. It does not provide on the ground of those things that are contemplated under the laws the National Assembly made to prohibit homosexuality and lesbianity. So that should be my short answer to that.
Okay. It is, and I think it's clear to me. If it's clear to you, please write in the question in the comment section. It's clear. Whilst I take the next question here from NK, it says, why do companies then openly display this age discrimination in job adverts? You spoke about this.
Right. So the Constitution provides that no Nigerian should be discriminated, right? Now, if there is any form of discrimination by companies here, I want to just take the word companies. Now, companies are not government institutions. They are not government organizations. They are corporate organizations that will have their policies and their rules and regulations. So they may have limited right to place certain criteria or requirement when it comes to recruitment and when it comes to job advertisement, right? However, so if that provision or if that discretion given to them extend to the level of discriminating against a Nigerian citizen on ground of his gender or sex, that cannot stand if it is challenged in court. Right.
Cannot stand the challenge in court.
If it is challenged in court.
Wow. We're learning, everyone, if it is challenged in court. Fantastic. Thank you. This was not a question, it's a comment, but I think we should address it. Respect the institutions, the flag, the anthem, and co, yet citizens were shot at whilst carrying the flag. Please speak to this.
This is really, really very unfortunate, and it's really appalling. And we all as citizens or as Nigerians condemn it, and we ought to condemn it. It's wrong, it's a violation of the Constitution, and it's not acceptable in our democratic institution. It's not acceptable to the Constitution that governs us as a nation. So it's condemnable and it is wrong. It is not acceptable and it cannot never be condoned at all.
So here is my submission and my request to everybody who is watching this live or watching the recording. Please highlight, take a screenshot of your constitution where this is highlighted. That was a section. Can you find it for me? Section, where was it now? Section welfare, direct, shelter. Where is it? The one that talks about respect for the flag and co. I'm scrolling to find it. Without discrimination, promotion, the state shall provide dignity. Religious. Okay, section 24. No, is this subsection 24? So this is section what? Section 24, paragraph A. Am I in
Is
the
it
section or
24 at
subsection?
all? I think it's subsection.
Yes, I'm looking at it's chapter 2, section 24, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, section 24.
Yes,
Section
section 24,
24,
paragraph A.
paragraph C.
I know this thing. I know
Paragraph
this thing.
C. Respect the
Paragraph
dignity of other
A.
citizens. Right? A. Okay,
No,
abide
paragraph
by this
A says
constitution.
abide by this constitution, respect its ideals and its institutions, the national flag, the national anthem, and the national pledge, and legitimate authorities. So something here now has caught my attention. Legitimate authorities. So let's assume, just for sake of discussion, that indeed the authorities said there was a curfew to be enforced at 9 p.m. Earlier said 4, but the same authorities changed to 9. But at 7 p.m., some other authorities in the claimed, just for sake of discussion, claimed to have been wearing the military uniform of the Nigerian army, right? Showed up and were shooting at Nigerians who were both waving the Nigerian flag and singing the Nigerian anthem. Curfew was for 9. This is 7 p.m. Please tell us something about this. Let's assume it did happen. Let's just assume that happened.
Okay, first
What
of
would be
all,
the legal implication?
as citizens, we have a duty to respect constitutional authority. And when there is an order or directive by those constitutional authority, we have a duty to obey. We have a duty to respect those constitutional authority. That's the only way we can have a sane nation. Now, if there is a curfew by those authorities that say, don't be here or don't be there at 9 p.m. or at 4 p.m., we have a duty as citizens to respect that, right?
Okay.
Now, the second aspect of it is, if a citizen, if that citizen on whom that lawful order is issued violates it, right, or refuse to comply with it, what will be the consequences for that? Now, the moment you violate those constitutional authorities' directives that were issued, the requirement is that you should, as a citizen, be tried in a court of law, and it should be established that you violate that before any other punishment should be meted on you. Get me? You cannot be punished.
To be taken to
you cannot
court.
be punished. I even want to get to that. You cannot be punished for an offense unless it is established and proved that you indeed committed that offense. So a violation of that order need to be proved before another constituted authority, which is the court now, before you can be punished for that violation, right? Now, you remember the case in Lagos during the COVID-19 lockdown, where somebody was alleged to have organized a house party, right? In violation of the guideline on banning of gathering. Now, if that person is alleged to have violated that, they did not take that person to any other place other than the court where that person confessed that she committed that offense, or evidence were led to prove that. So if you violate a curfew order, you ought to be taken to another constitutional authority for that to be proved before you can be punished. That's one. That's another aspect of it too. The third aspect of it is, if indeed after the violation, without you being taken through the process of you being proven that you really indeed violated that order, and you were shot aside and any other those things that we had happened, anything that happened at that stage is another violation by the authorities, right? If indeed they were shooting, people were wounded, people were killed, those things on their own and another offense committed by the state agents. So it's a wrong committed on another wrong, which does not happen in an environment that operates on democratic principle and constitutional governance. So first of all, we should obey the constitutional authorities, and if we violate or disobey them, we should be tried and be proven to have violated them. Thirdly, if before we were tried to be confirmed that we violated them, an extrajudicial action is taken. That is also another violation by the state authorities.
Thank you, Chairman Mao. So to everyone who is watching right now, we have a responsibility. Somebody please ask me, what's that responsibility? This that you have heard, please write it, create a meme, create a flyer, and put it everywhere. Take a screenshot of the Constitution in section 24, paragraph A. Take a screenshot of it, broadcast it, and use this to create an argument in your space. I have said it again and again. I don't believe we can advocate or agitate for anything we don't know from the Constitution. Now, from this flawed Constitution has also come something we can use to run with. Right now, we are enlightening citizens across the world, Nigerian citizens at home and abroad. So please take this away, right? And Maria, it's not, don't worry, I'm not trying to implicate you in anything. I'm just the one saying we all have the responsibility to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to speak about this later today or tomorrow. And I might call a name or two out, perhaps the governor of Lagos State, but that's totally something else. There's another question here. It's 2:55. I'm watching our time. This one, is this a question or a comment? What's happening to my network? It says, is it not justifiable to start now to teach the Nigerian Constitution in our schools like it's done all over the world? Well, I don't know what is done all over the world. Personally, I have not lived abroad. I have not asked certain questions if their constitutions are taught. And when we say all over the world, we really mean in Kazakhstan, in Djibouti, in South Africa, in Venezuela. We don't mean the United Kingdom and the United States only. We mean all across the world. So I don't really know what happens across the world. But should it now be law? Should we all, whether law, or should we enforce it? Or does it provide somewhere that this constitution should be taught to every Nigerian citizen?
Right. Thank you again for this question. Now, the Nigerian education curriculum,
Chairman Mao,
as it is. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Are you with me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Have I gone off?
No, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Are you with me? Hi, Joyce, I can hear you. Hello? Joyce, I'm with you. I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the Nigerian education curriculum, as it is.
I can hear you. Yes, I think my network went off. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me, Joyce, now? Can you hear me? I can hear you. Okay. Now, I was saying the Nigerian education curriculum as it is today does not provide for educating Nigerians, or does not provide for any form of education on constitutional provisions generally. And the responsibility to update, or the responsibility to put together the curriculum, is rested with the authorities, again, that's the education ministry. So, but there is a provision for teaching of government, which is a subject in our education institution, in our secondary schools. And there are some aspects of the government curriculum that has to do with the provisions of the constitution, like the 3 arms of government we talked about last week. Who are they? And then some aspect of their constitution. So it's a thing of maybe priority. If we as a people now sit down and think it is necessary and it is important for us to have that aspect of that to have the Constitution being taught in our education system, then we can begin to make those arguments and we can begin to make that case, and for the authorities to take it up and we see whether we can get it.
Okay, thank you. One or two last questions before we move on, because we need to go into chapter 3 now. Well, answer this. Can the army be tried in a civilian court? That's just because we're talking about occurrences that may have happened.
Okay, let me adjust the question. Can we say maybe can military officials be tried in a civil court? The answer is no for certain sort of offenses. So they have what is called the court martial that tried servicemen, that tried military officers, people in service of the Air Force, the Nigerian Navy, and the Nigerian Army are tried by the court martial.
They are tried by the court martial. Thank you.
Yes, I don't want us to go into detail with respect to that. There are a lot of analysis on it, but we just leave it at that.
It's very clear.
Yes.
Okay, NK is asking a question here. We need to say more about the non-enforceable provisions. Why do we have provisions in the 1999 Constitution that cannot be enforced, especially against public officers who fail to live up to their responsibilities as provided? What's the way forward?
Now, a lot of arguments were made with respect to this non-enforceability of the chapter of the Constitution. And the argument against that is with respect to the fact that the issue that has to do with those social services or those social basic social needs are things that are really of matter of choice and government policy, and the lack of clarity and certainty of with respect to that. For example, if government in Lagos State think what the citizen need the most is education, and they make a plan and make policy decision based on their assessment and analysis to say, okay, they will provide basic education need to the minimum standard for Lagosians. And another Lagosian goes to court to say, no, they did not provide me health. So how will the court be able to hold those institutions or those government responsible for failure to provide for health when their plan is to provide for education? So that lack of clarity and certainty is one. Another thing is the fact that all over the world, there is what we call separation of power. Each of the arms of government is expected to function independent of the other without any interference by the other. So there is a feeling that if you allow the court to begin to analyze whether a government has performed on this or has not performed on this, there is a sort of interference, and this independence that is anticipated by the Constitution will now be questioned by the other arm of government. So a lot of reasons were canvassed by different quarters why that aspect of the Constitution should not be enforceable. And it's also a very wide discussion on it, but I will just leave it with these two items I mentioned.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So to everyone who is watching, we have responsibility. It is very clear we have responsibilities. Now, for the first time in my life, when I hear somebody say we need to we need to amend the Constitution or adjust the Constitution, or we need to rewrite the Constitution, I am now seeing why. So many of us, we're not going to change these things on the streets. The change is not going to happen on the street just by talking and making noise on social media. No. It's going to happen by concerted effort, which leads to this question. This is the last question we'll take before we go into chapter 3, and Nonso is standing by and ready. Nonso, maybe you would take off from this question and continue into chapter 3. What are the steps required to demand or ask for changes to be made to the Constitution? Or will that be treated in another session? Maria, let's leave Nonso to respond to this question and then lead us into chapter 3, which starts with section 25 and talks about citizenship. So Nonso, over to you. Maria and I are moving to backstage and we'll be waiting for the response to this question. Thank you. Sorry, just hold on before you fire away. Before you fire away, please. Everyone, do well. It's not too late. We're just entering the second half.
let
me mute your mic. Let your family and friends know where you are, what we're listening to. You can share that we're live on YouTube. They can still come in here and join us and listen. Now we're about to talk about citizenship. And in chapter 4, we will be talking about fundamental rights. We're entering the cocoa. So please still share on Facebook, share on YouTube, tell people where we are and what we're discussing. Nonso, welcome. Over to you. Please unmute your mic.
unmute your mic. I muted you.
All right. Okay, welcome everyone from wherever you are joining from. A quick response to that question, and it will take us to a little bit of recap from what we discussed at the previous class or the previous session, is that you need your elected representative to be able to achieve this. Remember that we said that because we practice a sort of representative government, we sort of exercise that right during election to donate our opportunity for decision making, key decision making to our elected members, whether at the National Assembly or the state houses of assembly. So that initiation will definitely need to come from the legislative house. So they will make that initiation. So either of the house can initiate the process of making changes to the constitution, of altering the constitution, which is different from when we want to say we want to completely jettison the constitution and come up with a new one. In that case, we need to call up a national conference with certain representation to be able to maybe chart a new legal order. But if we want to make this sort of alteration in the current constitution, there will be need for us to initiate that process through our elected members in the houses of assembly. And it works a lot if we've been following in recent past the election in the United States of America, where you see senators trying to mention about what the people from their districts who have sent email to them. I doubt whether we are able to engage our elected representative that much. Otherwise, they should be receiving a lot of emails to say we should be able to know them, for instance. And it's been quite fantastic that there's been effort in recent past to make their phone numbers and email available. So in occasions like this, you should be able to send them an email and say, well, I think this particular section needs to be amended, this problem that is going on, we need to adjust the constitution to be able to achieve a better legal order. So if you make that to them, then they have the power to introduce it, and the whole government approvals will now happen to the extent that they will need, after passing it in each of the houses, have to go back to the state house assembly because it's a constitutional amendment to see that it receives a majority approval. And in this case, you don't really need a unanimous approval to make those changes. I think two-thirds majority, depending on the section of 4/5 of the states, is enough for you to achieve those changes. So the truth of the matter is, it's a rigid constitution that we have. So the procedure to alter it's a little bit rigid, and we are all aware. It goes without saying why we choose to make it rigid, because we never wanted a situation whereby government will be toppled or any other form of governance of Nigeria will happen other than by the constitution. If that satisfies this response, I can quickly delve into chapter 3 of the Constitution, which talks about you and I, we citizens of Nigeria, talks about citizenship.
Please carry on.
Please carry on.
The word citizen appears about 70 times in the Constitution. Remember the last time I was trying to say that the Constitution belongs to us and we should take ownership of it 70 times, not just even in chapter 3. And we can see it's scattered across all other places in the Constitution. And citizenship appears about 14 times. And we have to ask, so who is really a citizen? So that after this quick desktop definition, we'll now ask ourselves, am I really a citizen of Nigeria? So we'll look at that, and we'll now look at overview of the chapters that provide for citizenship quickly to enable us to grasp it. And then I would like to also end the way Maria ended by looking at some controversial issues that have come up either in the past in our history or in the recent past concerning citizenship that we have there in the public domain. So a legally recognized person or a national of the state or a native naturalized is what we call citizen. So you have to have that legal recognition. And what sort of legal recognition do you need to have in our country, Nigeria, to become a citizen? Our constitution provided for this in about 3 sections, 25, 26, and 27. 25, section 25 enables us to acquire citizenship by birth. And by birth, it means people that were born before the date of independence from 1960, or people that were born of parents who were Nigerian citizenship before independence or after independence. So by birth enables us to acquire that citizenship. For a lot of us that we could say the younger ones, not too young to run group, that are not born before citizenship, we have that opportunity for us to acquire that citizenship by virtue of the fact that our parents or grandparents were Nigerian citizens after the date, after the date of independence. It also enables persons who were born outside Nigeria by parents who are Nigerian citizens to also acquire Nigerian citizenship. So these are ways in which we can acquire citizenship by birth. The other way we do acquire citizenship, I will come back to explain it further. I just want to run through these sections. The other way we can acquire Nigerian citizenship is by registration. Okay, and then there are processes to it. I mean, there are persons who are government registration compliant in terms of taking you through the registration process, and they're able to guide you. But it's a procedure, and it's a duty that the president of the Republic of Nigeria is saddled to grant. If that person is of good character and you have shown a clear intention, meaning you have to apply, and then you're able to take the oath of allegiance. And then it also applies to any woman who is or has been married to a citizen of Nigeria, and every person of age who are born outside Nigeria and who are intended to be able to acquire this same citizenship. Another form of which we can acquire citizenship, which is provided for in section 27 of the Constitution, is by naturalization. Okay, in this case, there is the opportunity that the person that is saddled with these constitutional powers to be able to grant this said certificate is also the president of the Republic of Nigeria. So the president has a lot of powers under the Constitution, and then it has to be when the president have considered certain qualities and have considered certain parameters or certain attitudes, and find you worthy to be accorded Nigerian citizen by naturalization, you will be accorded a citizen. And in paragraph D of subsection 2, it also enables the governor of a state to make such proposition and to be able to, for the president to also consider. And in that, it's bringing it a little bit home so that the governor can check and see that the person has that kind of acceptability permanently in the particular community where the person particularly resides. And of course, the person will take that oath of allegiance, and that person must have resided in Nigeria for some reasonable period of time, I think about 15 years. Okay, so the first 3 sections in summary, provide how we can acquire the citizenship, either by birth, by registration, or by naturalization. The next 3 chapters, interestingly, now talks about how we can forfeit, renounce, or the procedure with which this citizenship can be deprived of us. Okay, so I mean, I know a lot of people are having a lot of clamor. I'm so tired of this country. I mean, I want to jet out. But please know that wherever you are jetting out to, if you are not taking the steps of forfeiture, you remain an Nigerian citizen wherever you are. And so that section 28 gives us a full provision of forfeiture of the Nigerian citizenship. And maybe I will quickly introduce two notable controversial cases here. That's the one that had to do with the former president of the Senate of Nigeria, the National Assembly, to say, well, whether he was fit to continue to remain Senate where he has another citizenship. Of course, it's not in recent past, and it also had to do with our own Amazon, who has a fair chance of becoming the new World Trade Organization chairperson. That's in course of the process acquired American citizen. Was saying, wow, do we accommodate dual citizenship? Yes, we do not really. Nigeria is one of those countries that don't accommodate dual or multiple citizenship per se. But where that citizenship is acquired by birth, that person does not forfeit the citizenship because he acquires citizenship of another country. That is to say, if you are a Nigerian citizen by birth, you will not be deemed to have forfeited your Nigerian citizenship if you acquire if you become a citizen of another country. But if you, of course, acquire citizenship by registration, by naturalization, you will be deemed to have forfeited that citizenship. The next provision is section 29, which talks about renunciation. Yes, so in the same way that we have acquired citizenship, the Constitution also allows us to renounce it if we want, and that power to cause the declaration of renunciation is also given to the president. So the president has a lot of role to play in this case. But there are some exceptions to making this renunciation, which you are free to make. You cannot make it it may not be easy for the president to make such registration of any declaration when we are under any war, period of war, or in the opinion it's contrary to public policy. So the president has a lot of discretion to exercise in this case. Another form in which we can really reject our citizenship as citizenship taken away from us is if the president on its own. You see why the first one in section 28 operates automatically by the fact that you have acquired become a citizen of another country. Section 29, you take the initiative to apply to renounce your Nigerian citizenship. Section 30 is for the president to deprive you of your citizenship. And this is where a particular case in our history, Sugarban, Minister of Interior, will come in during our Second Republic, where a particular citizen was deported, and then the citizenship was taken off him. And of course, he challenged it because the certain steps the final step that the Constitution allows were not obeyed and followed. Okay, so the president has that power to deprive you of the citizenship if he's satisfied that within 7 years of becoming naturalized, you've been sentenced to imprisonment for a term not less than 3 years. And then the president can also exercise this power to deprive you of your citizenship, whether by birth, including by birth. Can you imagine if you have shown yourself to be disloyal to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or during the period of war, you have engaged in unlawful trade of our security secrets with the enemy. So the president will have this power. So this provision of section 32, subsection 2, paragraph A has been have been with us since the 1960 and up to the 1979 Constitution, which also gave a basis with which Mr. Sugaba was expelled. But as we will see later, there is a role that the Parliament or the National Assembly had to play in such directive or such regulation that is made by the President. And that is a little bit what was lacking in that procedure, leading to which Sugaba successfully challenged it. Section 31 provides for accommodation of parents and grandparents that are late. So that if Section 25 allows us to have citizenship by birth because our parents and grandparents were Nigerian citizens, either before or after the date of independence, the question may arise, what about people whose grandparents or parents are no longer alive? I mean, how is it possible for that citizenship to derive? So Section 31 sort of certifies that to say that we can still go ahead to acquire that citizenship, notwithstanding that that such parents or grandparents of that Nigerian citizen is no longer alive. So it recognizes them even when they are late. And then the final section in chapter 3, which is section 32, gives the president the power to make regulation. Okay, so imagine that out of this 8 sections that we have just tried to explain, there are gaps to be filled, and because Constitution is supposed to operate as a generic document, as skeletal document, the president has the power to make that Constitution, so long as that's, to make such regulations, so long as such regulations are not inconsistent with the provision of this chapter. Remember, the Constitution is supreme, and no other law that could deemed to be inconsistent with it can stand. So the president can make such regulation, and then in the principle of checks and balances, the National Assembly has the power to receive such regulation, and the exact word of constitution is that the regulation will be laid before the National Assembly for the National Assembly to sort of look at it and give sort of approval, which we may call in parliamentary terms ratification of such decision that were made by the president. So this is quickly a run through of the 8 sections and about 32 subsections that accommodate our citizenship in Nigeria. We will later on in the discussion see why this is important, because if in the next chapter that Sarah will be discussing, we will see that there are even some rights that accrue to us because we are Nigerian citizens. We can also go ahead to see that there are things, constitutional provisions that we accrue to us that we can exercise because we are Nigerian citizens. Now, some controversies which I try to highlight in course of the presentation. Okay, so we saw the one of the very key one is the one of the former president of the Senate of the National Assembly, where the controversy came that he has another citizenship, whether that gives him the constitutional advantage or constitutional rights to become a member of the National Assembly, or to become even to take an elected position in Nigeria. Okay, so the simple settlement of that controversy is that he had acquired his Nigerian citizenship by birth, and that section that provides for forfeiture of citizenship, which is section 28, precludes, which means it saves those of us who are Nigerians by birth. So that is the same thing go for Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala that recently acquired the citizenship of the United States of America in the recent past. So because they have their Nigerian citizenship by birth, they will not be deemed to have forfeited their Nigerian citizenship because they acquired another citizenship. Then another one that's happened not too long in history is the deportation of people from one state to another. You say, since you are a Nigerian citizen, is it on what basis should really a governor take you from one state and dump you in another? We know how the one that happened in Lagos State with the former governor generated a lot of controversy. The point is really that these persons were not deported from the territory, from the shores of the sovereign territory of Nigeria. They, like it said, it's that provision of our criminal laws that enables that deportation to happen. And because of tracing pedigree of powers that we mentioned last time, who made that provision? It was made by, it is an act of the National Assembly. Why is it an act of the National Assembly? Because the National Assembly has the duty under the Constitution to make such provision. And so it does not in any way deprive those persons that were deported from one particular part of Nigeria to another to lose their Nigerian citizenship. It's rather a case of for the purposes of which the person who has that power of deportation have deemed it a little bit criminally not conducive. He has decided to shift them from one part of the country to another, so they continue to remain Nigerian citizens. So we like to have a recap that whilst the chapter has 8 sections. In the first 3 sections, it provides how we can acquire citizenship. In the next 3 sections, it provides for how this citizenship can be forfeited or renounced or deprived. And it also, in the last 2 sections, accommodates parents and grandparents that are no longer alive, and as well as gives the president the power to make regulation for which the National Assembly will rectify. Okay, we can now take questions.
Not so?
Not so?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
While I'm speaking, I will mute you, please, to avoid the echo. So please, if you have a question for Nonso, this is the time. We just talked about citizenship, and I know many people may not have questions about this one. Like this one, this one no concern us. All of us are already citizens. That's what some people might be saying. I will. There was a question I wanted to ask about this whole citizen. If the question comes back to me, I will note it. But in your opinion, Nonso, this is not just about this chapter and these sections that we have discussed. Do we need to amend this constitution? Or do we need to rewrite the whole thing? Please unmute yourself. And this is your personal opinion. This is not a legal, this is just Nonso's opinion.
Area of citizenship, I do not see, I do not very much agree with the discussion that enables us to sort of prohibit multiple citizenship. In a situation where we are now operating the world is now a global village, and we want to encourage the possibility of individuals of the global space moving from one place to another and easily identifying with such places. I think we should be able to do away with the forfeiture clause. If I'm to write to my elected representative today, I think I'm going to write in that aspect. We should be able to have opportunities for people to have multiple citizenship. I do not see what we stand to lose in that, because the reasons why someone would not have why the president will to deprive someone of multiple of his citizenship has nothing really to do with the fact that the person has multiple citizens. So long as the person owes allegiance to Nigeria, long as the person has not been loyal to the country and is very obedient to the laws, why not allow the person to have as many as number of citizenship that person can have, so that it will be able to encourage ease of movement in the global space and ease of having international relations and international business in the global space. That's the aspect I think in this chapter 3 that will need some amendments. Otherwise, I think other provisions of the sections are very well clear, and based off of the explanation that we just provided.
Okay, so let me mute you again, and please make this appeal to all those who are watching this broadcast right now or are watching the replay. Please highlight that section and subsection and talk about it on your platforms. Some people don't know these things. If I am not mistaken, in the next few years, some Nigerians with multiple citizenship might want to return home and vie for certain offices and will not be able to run because they carry another passport, which for many of them has nothing to do with them. They were born there or something, some some of their parents were scared and ran away and went to have them somewhere else. So should we now deny them because this faulty clause is here in our constitution? So please let the conversation continue. Someone is asking, how can I reach my representative? Shineyoureye.org. Shineyoureye.org has the contacts of all members of Senate and House of Representatives. And I think it also has the state members of the Houses of Assembly. So please go to Shine Your Eye. Yesterday, I sent several texts to the House of Reps member who represents my constituency. I have not received any response, but believe me, I'm going to continue firing those messages and in fact, make a move for a face-to-face because you see me, we are not here to play. We're going on. So I'm going to unmute you soon because the question has just come up from Chioma Okolo. There are 2 questions, so please unmute and read the question and respond, please.
Okay, from what I can see in the screen, it said, does it mean that any non-Nigerian citizen that gives birth in Nigeria, his or her child that is born in Nigeria is citizen? Okay, I think the question, the sense I'm making of it is that where a non-Nigerian gives birth to a baby, a boy, a girl in Nigeria, whether that citizenship accrue. No, our citizenship, by birth, accrues, it traces down to our parents and grandparents. And I think that is a valid question to note that section for amendment. It's not like we see in other crimes where you immediately acquire it automatically because you're giving birth in that country. Okay, you were born of parents that were born in Nigeria before or after independence. So that tracing of that citizenship to our parents has a lot to do with us acquiring Nigerian citizenship by birth.
And there are so many countries around the world, really. If you were not born, even if you were born there, you are not a citizen until so and so provisions are met. You must have lived there for so number of years, and you must apply, and you can be granted. The right can be withheld from you. It doesn't become automatic. It's not automatic. So it's not only it's not peculiar to Nigeria. Second question here says, are Nigerian citizens by birth allowed to have unlimited citizenship in other countries? This is about other countries. Anyway, please unmute and respond to this.
Well, it has to do with other countries to know whether they allow more than one. And I think it's more of a requirement of the country in question other than Nigeria. Once you're a Nigerian citizen by birth, that citizenship stays with you until you renounce it. Yes.
Thank you.
So it stays with you until you renounce it.
Please read what Peju has to say.
Okay, say, if there is the right of residence, how can you deport citizens from one state of Nigeria to another? Okay, maybe I should not preempt the discussion that will be happening in the next phase of this thing by Sarah, talking about the rights you have. But like we said earlier, there are laws that regulate these actions by the government. And so those laws have their roots in the Constitution. And then for I think for security reasons or finding it roots in our criminal procedure or our criminal code, that the governor had such powers to really deport. I know it came as a shock even to a number of lawyers whether such powers exist. Yes, it does exist. And then that deportation to another part of Nigeria does not mean deportation outside Nigeria. It is the one that was done outside Nigeria that Sugaba successfully challenged in court and succeeded and won. Because that one, yes, that one to the extent that your citizenship is duly deprived of you, if that procedure to deprive you of your citizenship is duly followed, you cannot just be kicked out of the country, but not of the state.
Thank you, everyone. Please put in the chat. Thank you, Nonso. I don't think we said thank you to Maria before. So you can also write thank you, Chairman Mao or Maria. Thank you, Nonso and I are going backstage. Sarah is here, our special somebody. She's here with us right now, and she's going to be discussing chapter 4, which is fundamental rights. It's quite a long chapter. It has from sections 33 to section 46. If by some chance, which I already see, we cannot finish this today, we continue this in part 3. All right. So just relax and do as much as we can today, and we can proceed to the next chapter. Oh, we're not going to end this series until we're done with the Constitution. And then all of us who have watched from part 1 till the last part, we will all have to come up with some sort of document of our own and see how we're going to forge ahead, either as a pressure group and go to the National Assembly and reach our representatives right there and say, this is what needs to be done. This is what we need to do. We are not learning for learning's sake. Please, if you're here to just learn for learning's sake, you might as well click off or leave. We are here to learn to effect the change that we seek. Enough is enough. Nobody's going to wait for somebody else to do what anybody thought somebody should have done, but nobody did. We are all going to take responsibility. So welcome, Sarah. Everybody, please say welcome to Sarah. I'll take the backstage now.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session. It's a rare privilege to be here to discuss the Constitution. And taking up from where my colleagues have just talked about, we're going to be looking at chapter 4 of the Constitution. And it is very, very important that you have your Constitution with you, and we're going to go through it so that we are able to understand our rights. Right, so every Nigerian citizen has rights, you have obligations, you have liabilities, and all these rights, liabilities, obligations are spread across several legislations in the country. However, certain rights, which are termed inalienable rights, are vested in individuals, citizens of the country, for your benefit and enjoyment. Now, when we say inalienable rights, we mean rights that cannot be transferred, that cannot be forfeited, that cannot be surrendered. They are yours and yours to use and yours to enjoy. Regardless of these provisions that protects your fundamental rights, it is very important to know that these rights are not absolute. So in the exercise of your rights, you must be careful not to infringe on mine. You have your rights, I have mine. You have the right to exercise your rights. You also have the right, it is a sane society. We want to be able to maintain order. You want to be able to enjoy your right. I want to be able to enjoy my rights. So the point I'm making about the fact that these rights are not absolute, goes to show that in the enjoyment of your rights, you also have to take into consideration the right of another. This also goes beyond individual rights this goes beyond you and I. It extends even to government agencies. A lot of times we hear, especially the police, in trying to maintain order, they infringe on the right of citizens. Now, arguments have come up to say, in the exercise of your duty, of your legitimate duty, you shouldn't breach or infringe on my rights. So we're going to go into chapter 4 of the Constitution, and it is very important, like I said from the beginning, that you have yours open, and then we can take this through. So this chapter 4 starts from sections 33 and spans through sections 46. And then we're just going to run through all of them right now. So we have section 33 provides for the right to life. Sections 34 provides for right to dignity of human person. Section 35 provides for right to personal liberty. I hope you're also going through your constitution, and so that you know that these things are there, they are protected, they are provided for you, for your enjoyment, for your benefit. We also have section 36, which talks about your right to fair hearing in determination of your civil rights. You have a right to enjoy fair hearing. We're going to go into detail to discuss what the right to fair hearing entails. Sections 37 now talks about your right to private and family life. Section 38 talks about your right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Sections 39 talks about your right to freedom of expression and the press. Sections 40 talks about right to peaceful assembly and association. Sections 41 talks about your right to freedom of movement. Sections 42 provides for right to freedom from discrimination. Section 44 talks about, section 43 rather talks about your right to acquire and own property anywhere in Nigeria. And section 45 talks about restriction and derogation from fundamental human rights and special jurisdiction of high courts and legal aid. Now that special jurisdiction provides for how you can seek redress when your rights have been infringed on, the proper courts to approach, and the sort of engagements you can have to seek redress where your rights are being infringed upon. So we're going to go into this in detail and hopefully well, as much as we can cover for today. So section 35 says your right to life, and then it entails that no person shall be deprived intentionally of his life. So every citizen of Nigeria, in fact every human being, this is not just a Nigerian thing, these are rights that are, that are provided for people based on the fact that they are alive, they are individuals, and there our constitution now goes ahead to even provide it to cater for Nigerians. Right, so the right to life is like one of the most important, one of the most basic rights, and it protects, it ensures that everybody has a right to life and no person shall be deprived of that right, save for when he has committed an offense, has been tried by a court of competent jurisdiction, have been found guilty and sentenced. Then, in that circumstance, a person cannot be said to have been deprived of his right to life. Certain other instances, if you look through subsections 2 of sections 33 of the Constitution, also provides for certain instances when a person's rights would not be regarded to have been deprived of now. Okay, so example is where a person pleads self-defense. For instance, the law allows you to use reasonable force as is necessary and within the law to protect yourself and your property. Now the issue and the debate that has been coming up since time immemorial is what is reasonable force. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a question of interpretation, but basically it is such force that it is not intentional, and you don't have at the back of your mind, you don't intend for the person to die, right? So that is that about defense of any person from unlawful violence or for the defense of property. Another instance where your right to life can be, well, not necessarily infringed on, but can be contravened, and it will not amount to a contravention, so to say, is in the process of effecting a lawful arrest or to prevent the escape of someone who has committed an offense, and for the purpose of suppressing a riot, insurrection, or mutiny. So these are all instances when your right to life can be taken away from you. Other than these exceptions, as I have highlighted here, every individual, every Nigerian has a right to life, and that life cannot be taken away from you without, save for these instances that I have highlighted here. Now, the second right is right to dignity of human person, and it says no person shall be subjected to torture, inhuman or degrading treatment. No person shall be put into slavery or servitude. Every person has a right to his dignity of human person. And then, well, if you also look through, you would also see that, like I said, these rights are qualified. It is not absolute. There are certain instances where there can be derogation from that right, and then you will not be able to enforce it. Now, some of such instances for rights of dignity of human person, as we can see in subsections 2 of sections 34, the sub-paragraphs there, any labor required in consequence of a sentence of a court order, that is where you have been sentenced, where you have been convicted of an offense and a sentence has been passed. And probably we hear sometimes where I say you have been convicted to, or you have been sentenced to imprisonment for 4 years with forced labor or hard labor. In that instance, it is in consequence of a sentence of a court order, it cannot be said to be a derogation of your rights. If you look through, you also see such labor that is required for members of the armed forces, in education, like when we go for NYSC, all those activities that we do, you can't term them as a derogation of your rights to dignity of human person. Now, there's right to personal liberty. This is also guaranteed this is provided for under sections 35 of the Constitution. So that right entails that you are free, you have freedom as a Nigerian. This right also extends to when a person is lawfully arrested. A lot of times we tend to see this only in movies. A lot of times, a lot of Nigerians do not know that what we see in American movies, for instance, when they talk about the Fifth Amendment and all, we also have it in our Constitution. That when a person is arrested, he has a right to remain silent until and unless his legal representative is present. He has a right to be informed in writing in a language that he understands within the shortest possible time of his offense. He has a right to be charged to court. These rights are there. But the problem that we have in Nigeria is the enforcement. First, from the fact that people do not know that they have these rights, and even to the law enforcement. I mean, I do believe that a lot of our law enforcement do not know that these rights, inure to citizens, and that they have a right to remain silent. But when you go to state CIDs, for instance, and then you see how they torture people, they arrest people, they coerce them into making statements and even force them to sign and all sorts. A lot of these things, and now that we are talking about these things and looking for ways to reform. For instance, we have a police service commission. These people are supposed to, this commission as established in the Constitution, they're supposed to look into some of these things and then, met out punishments or checkmate some of these activities. You see people come to court and they are saying they didn't commit the offense, they were forced to make statements, all sorts of things, and then it just goes by because a lot of times people do not know. So taking it from here and this initiative that we're enjoying or that we are exploring today is for there to be a sort of consciousness in the minds of Nigerians that you have these rights, and for our law enforcement agencies to know that these rights are there for citizens. You don't arrest people and put them through the most inhumane treatment and torture just to get statements from them. You force them to say that they committed offenses that they did not. I mean, it is just appalling in this country. And then it starts from consciousness, knowing that you have this right and sticking to it, to know that yes, I have this right and you cannot take it away from me. And then to also know that in the event that this right is violated, you seek the appropriate avenues to seek redress. And then we can we're looking for a progressive Nigeria, right? So that's about rights to personal liberty. There's right to fair hearing. I already talked about that a bit, that in the determination of a person's civil rights, he has the right to be heard in court, in public. He has the right to be given adequate opportunity to put in his defense, and even to, extends even to getting records of proceedings. All those rights are there for you. And then to even be given the opportunity to be heard. Yes, I already talked about that. And every person who is charged with a criminal offense, if you look at section 36 sub 5 now, right, it says every person who is charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed to be innocent until he is proved guilty. I mean, these days we have a lot of social media judges and or whatnot, people pronouncing sentence on people. I mean, for people who are now conscious, for people who are now desirous of seeing a change in the nation, it is important that we leave interpretation or making judicial pronouncements on people until the court has made a pronouncement one way or the other. So it is not a case of guilty until proved innocent, right? So we go over to rights to life, right to private and family life. The Constitution does not really, if you look at it, section 37 now, it doesn't really go in depth to say, but I mean, this right goes as far as protecting your homes, your correspondence, your telephone conversations, your telegraphic communications, all those rights are protected. So when, I mean, under the Constitution now, a police officer cannot ask to search your phone. Yes, it is here, it is protected, and it is enshrined in the Constitution. If you look at section 38 now, I'm trying to be as fast as possible, and then hopefully we can cover. Section 38 says every person shall be entitled to freedom of thought, conscience, religion, including freedom to change his religion. This also prohibits any form of indoctrination. A person cannot be forced to accept any form of religion. Like we already said the last time, we cannot have anything as state religion. No state can say in Lagos we are Christians, or in Lagos we are Muslims, or whatever. Every person has a right to choose his religion. Everybody has a right to his thought and conscience, and that is provided in the Constitution. I mean, this does not also prevent certain communities or religious organizations to set up schools where they want to impart knowledge on their religion. I mean, like Mawiya stated when he was talking earlier, he said that every organization has their rules and regulations, and if you want to be a part of a particular organization, you would have to abide by their rules. Right, so here we have the rights. Section 39 says every person right to freedom of expression and the press. So every person shall be entitled to freedom of expression, including freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart ideas and information without interference. And every person shall also be entitled, without discrimination, to have his own medium to disseminate information. However, you must be licensed by the government. You must have license. If you look at the proviso to subsection 2 or section 39, it says, provided no person other than the government of the Federation of a state or any other person or body authorized by the president on the fulfillment of conditions laid down by an act of the National Assembly shall own, establish, or operate a television or wireless broadcasting station for any purpose whatsoever. I mean, this also goes to the point where I was saying that these rights are qualified. They are not absolute. Certain things, like you see your right to freedom of expression, for you to have a press media or any medium to disseminate information, you must be licensed by the government. I know. Now, there's a very popular case sometime that involved the editor of Daily Times, if I remember now. I think he made a publication, something about the Senate, and the Senate wanted to know his source of information. And then he went to court that it was a breach of his fundamental rights from the right to freedom of expression. And then the court upheld it, that disclosing the source of the information is a breach of that right, even though I think on appeal it was set aside, but I don't know what has happened any further in that case now. Yeah, so you have a freedom of expression, and this is also tied to the law of defamation. Remember when I started, I said you have your rights, I have my rights, and in the exercise of your rights, you must be careful not to breach mine. So while you have the right to express yourself, I have the right to be protected against any form of defamation, such that, I mean, defamation is when you impute something to somebody, either in writing or by word of mouth, and you have said it to somebody, anybody other than the person you have said it to, that will tend to lower that person in the estimation of right-thinking members of the society. So when you make an untrue statement about somebody and you either publish it or you say it to the hearing of more than one person, more than the person who is complaining of that act of defamation, then your right to freedom of expression stops, where my right to protection of my reputation starts. We must also bear that in mind. So we're going to, okay, so if you look at, let's look at section 39 sub 3 now. It says nothing in this section shall invalidate any law that is reasonably justifiable in a democratic society for the purpose of preventing the disclosure of information that is received in confidence and for the purpose of maintaining the order and independence of the judiciary. So that is why you see that pressmen are not allowed in the courtroom. Joyce, you want to say something?
I do, Sarah. Thank you. It's 4 minutes to the top of the hour.
All right.
And so we're going to have to shut down here.
Okay.
But I will let you finish making that point that you were on and maybe take one question, just one question, and then we call it a wrap for today and continue from this same chapter next Sunday. So let me let you finish with that thought.
Okay. So, right, the point I was making here is that freedom of expression, right to freedom of expression and the press, this is also, you know, where there's for the purpose of preventing disclosure of information that is received in confidence and maintaining the authority and independence. And yes, I was making the point that this is why pressmen are not allowed in court, so that the judiciary is not biased or is not, I mean, is allowed to make pronouncements without fear or favor, without let or hindrance. Now that's the point I'm trying to make. So if you also look at paragraph B of that section 3, you'll see that another place where these rights may be derogated from is in imposing restrictions upon persons holding office under the government of the Federation of a state or members of the armed forces of the Federation or members of the Nigerian police force or other government security services or agencies established by law. So again, I would also just want to wrap up by saying that we're coming to a point of consciousness. We have these rights that have been put in place to protect us. These rights are not absolute. In exercise of your right, you must be careful not to breach mine. So I think we can end here for today and then take any questions if there are any. Okay, so how do we tackle instances where people held in police custody are treated so inhumanly and also defend the right to lawyers right to lawyers and family members. Yeah, so I mean, this is the point where I was trying to make about activism. First, from the judiciary, to also know that our system is so corrupt, so bad, that people don't even have regard for the rule of law. I mean, we can make excuses for people who do not know that these rights are there, but then there are people who know. There are certain times that you hear that people are arrested, and then when you want to say, oh, I know my right, I want to speak to my lawyer, and then they shut you up, and then they don't. I mean, this is a time for reform. That is the way to go about it, for especially now that we're looking forward to a progressive nation. The way to do it is that we educate people, from the citizens to the law enforcement agencies, to respect. I mean, we cannot have rights provided for in the Constitution and then we behave as though we don't have these things. So it comes from, that consciousness. So as citizens, we have the right to peaceful protest. I figure it doesn't give us the right to restrict movement of others through barricade. Well, that is very correct. You have the right to protest. Even though, I mean, the protest as it were is for the benefit of everybody. It doesn't allow, the Constitution doesn't allow you to restrict other people from having free access to go to wherever they want to go to. So yes, that is the position. It doesn't allow you to close roads or restrict movements through barricades. No, it doesn't. Any other question?
Whew. Wow, it's been such a day. I know more questions are going to come. I would plead with you, if you have a question, when this broadcast is over, leave your question in the comment section of this post, and one of our lawyers will come in there to respond to you. I'm going to make this request. From everything you've taken away today, please pass on this information to your groups, to your families, to your organizations, to your institutions. Talk about it. This is not a Joyce Daniels only mission. No. As long as you've been on this broadcast, you automatically now have the right, though not constitutionally, you now have the right, and there is the moral expectation on you. What do we call it? The moral burden on you now to please go and spread the information, as long as you're sure it is right and true. Quote the section it's from. Quote the subsection and the paragraph if need be. Take screenshots. You now have this constitution in your hand. And if you don't have a copy of the constitution, please download it from joycedaniels.net/the Nigerian Constitution download. Please go to joycedaniels.net/the Nigerian Constitution download. Once you click on the download now, it's an automatic download. It downloads on your, yes, that's the word, moral obligation. Yes, moral obligation. You now have the moral obligation to download this document, take screenshots, discuss them, create study groups throughout this month of November. I've been advocating, and myself and a few friends and people in different groups, that this month of November, let everyone saturate everywhere possible with this discussion about the Constitution. Go and start a discussion on your own group. Invite lawyers on your own page and let them come there to discuss the Constitution. I don't have the right to it. We all have the moral obligation to spread the word. If you can engage with the students, with the owners, what do you call it now, the heads of schools around you, engage with them. Find a way to discuss about bringing the Constitution into the curriculum as an extracurricular activity, if need be, until such a time that it is enforced as law. I was once chairman of the PTA of the school where my son was in when he was in primary school. And then we had something called, I started off something called the Parents Volunteer Week. So for a week in every term, parents will volunteer to teach, and we were allowed to teach anything that was not in the school, in the curriculum. So some of us would teach about money, we would teach about relationships, we would teach about whatever. So in your PTAs, you can adopt that. Start Parents Volunteer Week or Citizens Volunteer Week. Go talk to the schools in your neighborhood and gather together. It doesn't have to be 10 people, you and 2 others, or you by yourself. Sometimes when we're waiting for other people to join us, we lose steam. Go by yourself, volunteer. and gather them, even if it's in the assembly. Take bullet points. We may not go through everything the way we're doing now. Pick bullet points and teach. Go to the market women around you. I've seen some comments saying, oh, we need to enlighten the populace. Nobody's going to do it but us. If you can speak in a local dialect, go to your community, go to the market close to you, go to the young men and women around you, speak to them, gather them. Please don't wait for anybody. Please, we all have the moral obligation to spread the word so that everybody's aware of their rights. I'm thinking, do the police even learn about the Constitution in police college? I don't know. So maybe I should also find out. And if they are not, should we as an NGO go there and insist that we teach them? Should we go to police stations every XYZ day in a week and say we want to discuss with you the Constitution? Look, there is no limit to what we can do and how far we can propagate what is right. As much as I would like to say, let's demand of the government to do this, let's demand of the government to do that, it has never been in my makeup to do that. I always say, Joyce, what can you do? If I was waiting for the government to organize a session to teach people the Constitution, I will wait till I die, maybe. But I've taken it up on myself. So I'm asking you, take something up and let's move with it. I'd like to say thank you to our speakers from PAL, Primary Africa Legal, Sarah, Nonso, and Wawia. You guys are the real MVPs. Thank you so much. We're saying goodbye now because it's 5 minutes past 4 and we're going to respect people's time. Just because I can't unmute everybody, because you know what happens when we all unmute, it starts echoing. So we're just going to wave goodbye, knowing that everybody's leaving with our best wishes, and we're going to see everyone again this time next Sunday by the grace of God Almighty. So stay well in your different abodes. Do well to spread the word. This broadcast is going to be right here on my YouTube channel. You can copy it, you can download it, you can upload it to your own spaces, you can share it. Let the word go round. God bless us all hands on deck for the new Nigeria. It starts with me, it starts with you, it starts with us. Goodbye and God bless.